statement following 2 days of talks in Shanghai, in which they announced that they have agreed to tackle the climate crisis with the seriousness and urgency that
8 minutes past and 9 minutes past the half-hour mark. We are missing all the good shit.
John Kerry said there is still a lot of work to be done.
I know it looks tangled, it's really not.
Amazing deployment of renewables, and China has the major producer of solar panels in the world. That doesn't mean you don't need to reduce coal.
China is the world's biggest carbon emitter, followed by the United States. The two countries pump out nearly half of the fossil fuel fumes that are warming the planet's atmosphere.
That's not what he said. All that he, oh my God, what about all the atomic energy?
Listen 3. 3,000 applications from essential workers as part of its goal to bring in 1.2 million new immigrants over the next 3 years.
We are definitely expecting a surge. Now, I don't know how powerful and when that surge is going to happen, but there is a monumental, epic, pent-up demand for immigration services of every kind.
And that, he says, will trigger a logjam of cases that could take months or even years to clear, because Immigration Canada can only process so many cases in a day. They could hire more staff or relax the standards to enter the country. But
you can deport, you can remove hundreds of people.
That means families like the Mishras will just have to wait indefinitely. Mike Turley, Global News, Toronto.
That's 89.
Nova Scotia is remembering the lives lost in one of the worst mass murders in Canada. 1 year ago, the close-knit town of Portapique was terrorized when a killer posing as an RCMP officer went on a killing spree. In that 13-hour rampage, 22 people died. Today, their families and friends gathered to grieve. Ross Lord reports on a tragedy that remains surreal a year later.
Is that like G. Ross Lord Park?
After a year of feeling angry and bewildered, devastated Nova Scotia communities are using this dreaded anniversary to remember the victims while moving forward.
Go, tell us about the new rules.
1,000 people running or walking in person and virtually to honor the lives lost.
It's surreal. It's like it felt surreal when it happened, and it's still, every time I come through this way, it's always hard.
Julian Irani is running her 12th marathon. She's wearing 22 hearts on her back.
These are all the people we lost, so it's just for them.
There are widespread gestures of support.
People
the woman receiving this hug is Jenny Kirsten.
The RCMP started shooting at the fire hall for some reason. That's never been explained.
Sister, Lisa McCulley.
Constable Heidi Stevenson.
What was the other thing about that case? Oh yeah, they made a new rule restricting who can purchase police vehicles or something. He had a replica, so it wouldn't have applied to him. He just had a Ford Crown Vic with the exact right decals, which a used police car is beat the hell out of. They turn them into cabs.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm not doing better.
The same goes for Kelly, Greg Blair's sister. She's angry families have not been given more information about what led to the mass shootings and how the gunman was able to carry on with his rampage for 13 hours. Tyler and Kelly say they've received tremendous moral support. And Tyler says his two younger brothers, who were forced to hide out for hours with Lisa McCulley's two young children, are receiving therapy.
It definitely helps because I do different sorts of counseling. They do like horses and stuff. So that helps.
Smiles don't come easily, except for when the Blairs remember how Greg and Jamie lived their lives in the moment.
Usually the life of the party, especially my old man. He was a wild one.
The mass killings touched everyone in Nova Scotia, where there are few degrees of separation. At a time when the pandemic makes it hard to assemble collectively, these efforts are a point of pride.
In the environment of COVID, that we're able to do this is very empowering. You know, no matter what it took to have to do it, to line up properly, to wear masks, to, you know, be aware of, you know, not being too close to people, we still did it.
There were also new expressions of frustration, including a march to a local RCMP detachment. But But more answers won't come until a public inquiry starts collecting evidence, and no date has been set yet for the start of those hearings.
That's a piece of lead.
Ross Lord in Truro, Nova Scotia. Thanks, Ross. Coming up, Derek Chauvin's trial nears its end.
That would be a nail.
The Power Workers Union reminds you that the National Day of Mourning commemorates workers who have been killed or injured due to workplace-related hazards and incidents. Ongoing good health and safety conditions are a necessity. All workers who need to leave the safety of their homes to keep the economy moving deserve a safe place to work. On Wednesday, April 28th, let's pause to remember those lost or hurt on the job and commit to a safer workplace. A reminder from the Power Workers Union, the people who help keep the lights on.
Hello, I am water.
And I am earth, and we are just made for each other.
I come down as rain and hit on earth.
Together we make mud, sweet, beautiful mud.
Some find us challenging.
While all those Subarus with symmetrical full-time all-wheel drive revel in our creation.
Mud, our special gift to the world. Enjoy Subaru's
That's not all I found.
With great rates on 2021 Subaru Foresters. Go online to build and price yours and adventure on in all weather.
License 10349.
Northwood Mortgage. People don't usually.
Downtown Toronto. Good evening, I'm Veronica Thor. Here are the top stories this hour. As Ontario continues to grapple with the third wave of COVID-19, the federal government says it's stepping in to help. The Prime Minister says he's coordinating with some Atlantic provinces to send additional healthcare staff.
And the military might transport them.
Departments are set to be deployed.
You can see my smile through the
The NDP is claiming Premier Doug Ford plans to shut down legislature by Wednesday. Leader Andrea Horvath is vowing not to cooperate until the province puts certain COVID-19 measures into place, adding that the shutdown is the Premier's way to avoid accountability. And coming up after sports, we'll have details on a devastating train derailment in Egypt that's left a dozen people dead and around 100 hurt. 680 News Time, 6:45.
Okay, if you won't talk about how we suppressed the Somalia inquiry, then you won't talk about North and South Sudan. Why are you telling us about Egypt's train derailment?
Their series finale today.
Oh, it's horrible. It's devastating, yes. But is someone particularly responsible? But you won't talk about all the bad things being done on purpose.
In the death of George Floyd. The trial has delivered emotional witness testimony along with expert opinions about police tactics and use of force. Jackson Prosco reports.
Have you made a decision today whether you intend to testify or whether you intend to invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege?
I will invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege today.
Isn't it
He
a
declined
right
to testify in his own defense. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin will instead let the trial speak for itself.
Oh my God.
That included dozens of emotional witnesses.
I heard George Floyd saying, "I can't breathe, please get off of me, I can't breathe."
Who saw George Floyd take his last breaths in the custody of Chauvin and 3 other officers.
Officer Chauvin seemed very comfortable with the majority of his weight balanced on top of Mr. Floyd's neck.
Character witnesses like Floyd's girlfriend spoke openly of his struggles with addiction.
Was there a time when you thought you might be using again?
Yes.
Perhaps most devastating for the defense, Chauvin's former boss, the Minneapolis police chief, who testified that Chauvin's actions went against police training.
That in no way, shape, or form is anything that is by policy.
Expert after expert testified a lack of oxygen likely caused Floyd's death during the 9 minutes and 29 seconds he was under Chauvin's knee, along with the failure to provide any first aid.
You let a motherfucker kick you 5 times, he's going to kick you 5 times.
Oxygen deficiency.
Asphyxia.
The defense called far fewer witnesses. Their strategy sowed doubt about the actual cause of death.
It is frequently said and trained to police officers that a person can talk, it means they can breathe.
Witnesses brought up Floyd's heart condition.
It doesn't mean they can breathe adequately. That's patently untrue. That's patently untrue. That's patently untrue. You know that we knew that from the first grade. How the fuck do you not know that?
Accurate. So I would fall back to undetermined.
No,
in this particular case.
The jury will consider 3 potential charges: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, or second-degree manslaughter. Any decision to convict will have to be unanimous.
Why not first-degree manslaughter?
No matter what happens to Chauvin, the trial will not bring about the end of the saga. The 3 other officers charged with aiding and abetting will be tried jointly in August. Jackson Frosco, Global News, Washington.
Still ahead, Russia's military might. Can the U.S. halt the march toward Ukraine?
Wow. Hey, what about Canada First Defense Strategy and NATO commitments?
Is your office a pain in the neck and the back and the knees?
Okay, no particular
if
order.
If giving you a pain,
no
then we
particular
want to
order.
hear from you.
That one's free.
Dr. Lou Nally.
This one's also free.
Pinpoint Health Show, Saturday mornings at 11, and get expert advice from the doctor himself. Can't wait till Saturday? For all your pain care needs, call Pinpoint Health now. 1-855-55-Dr. Lou. That's 1-855-55-DRLOU. Or visit pinpointhealth.ca. Pinpointhealth.ca.
The covers somewhat mountain biking.
Retirement may seem confusing. A little help can make the journey a lot smoother.
Guide to trails.
Just ask Kelvin the Money Guy for some advice. He can take the confusion out of investment.
It says, a diplomat's chronicle of the Iraq War and its lessons. Geraldo Munoz, ambassador of Chile to the United Nations, forward by Kofi Annan. Oh, interesting.
Tomorrow. That's askkelvin.ca. Askkelvin.ca. We are Toronto's news talk leader.
The spin-off to the popular Captain Underpants, which is now being pulled from library and bookstore shelves. 2010 adventure of Kofi.
Thick one too, huh? Just to compare. That's my Lonely Planet book for China. It's not nearly as... I don't judge it by the cover, I judge it by the weight or the number of pages. Yes, probably.
Thanks for calling 1-800-GOT-JUNK. This is Sarah. How can I help?
First I pointed, then the junk disappeared. But the sparkle sound came a little bit late. So I said, you should probably make that sparkle sound a little bit quicker. And then Charlotte...
Palm Olive gets your dishes clean and is beautiful on your face.
For a handful of magic beans.
I love 1-800-GOT-JUNK. When you want junk to disappear,
all you have to do is point.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK
or visit us at 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com.
Doug Ford says schools are safe, but it's not true. 1 in 4 Ontario schools have active COVID-19 cases. Ford didn't do what experts told him to do to keep kids safe. Now the virus is out of control and we're facing school closures again. Past measures don't work. It's time to make vaccines available to all educators and frontline workers. Schools won't be safe until transmission is under control. A message from the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario.
So they're going to teach us how to peel garlic with the least amount of work and the least amount of bruising. I'm not joking. And they're going to tell us that manual transmissions now make up less than something like 1.2% of vehicles sold in North America.
Until sometime this summer, no temporary construction.
Sometime this summer.
Sometime. We'll see if that comes in later.
This summer, next summer.
Tonight. 470.
Military heading west. The Kremlin had said these movements were no one else's business. But this week, Russia's defense minister said troops were temporarily deployed to its western border in response to this.
Defender Europe 21.
A huge NATO exercise currently taking place in Eastern Europe. NATO and Ukraine are concerned Russia is on more than the defensive.
It's an American.
Russian buildup is taking place not only along the border of Ukraine, but along the border of democratic world.
The Ukrainian government says
we didn't talk all day, but apparently it worked.
Troops in Crimea, which Russia annexed from Ukraine in 2014.
No, it didn't.
And another 40,000 near its eastern border, close to the
3.9 miles,
region, which is partially controlled by Russian-backed separatists.
Most likely reading of this situation is that it's a tactic of intimidation, both for Ukraine, but also for the new U.S. administration.
A bargaining tool, perhaps, in a
now it says 3.9 kilometers. That didn't fix
proposed
shit.
on Tuesday by President Joe Biden. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who recently visited the front line, has said he wants to join NATO. Until Ukraine does so, Putin may have no real deterrent.
He knows that the initial stages of an offensive, which if he does launch it, will not be met with overwhelming force from the Ukrainian side. A lot of people are saying that Putin is just waiting for the ground to dry.
The people on that ground, particularly in Donbass, could again be the real losers.
They are just being, used as the territory to stage further, effort to undermine Ukraine.
More than 13,000 people have died in the
so it got
conflict since
reset
2014. Redmond Channel, Global News, London.
Up next, the deadly warning about a popular fitness machine.
Laid off due to COVID-19? You are entitled to full severance pay if you're not recalled to work by your employer.
As runner, Skylar Rother McDonald. Skylar Rother McDonald will be running from British Columbia to Newfoundland, a 7,000-kilometer distance from June 1st through October 31st. He has a very special reason for taking on this feat.
I've lost two really good friends to suicide, and I see the impact that leaves on my community. I think it's important to not just bring more awareness, but talk about my own personal struggles as well. I know sometimes it's a bit easier to open up yourself and see other people do it and normalize their own struggles.
For more information or to donate, visit www.milesforsmiles.com. I'm Devin Banfield. Coming up in 60 seconds, we'll have your business.
We'll make it sound like this.
0.01 kilometers, 1.44 kilometers per hour, 0 calories burned.
This.
Feel like, the question that I'm asking is a silly question to ask. On the contrary, the questions that I have are more than adequately answered. That's nice to hear.
Red tag days are back.
0.01 kilometers,
36 months on 2021 Corollas, all with Toyota Safety Center. When your bank account does more, your money does more.
Okay, Cuckoo, stop the music.
These people are on
Looking for
drugs.
tips on how to talk with your teens about cannabis? Visit drugfreekidscanada.org for more tools to help start the conversation. drugfreekidscanada.org.
It's the Jeep No Limit.
Unfortunately, the process com.google.process.gaps GApps has stopped. Okay, that's going to come up every 10
I'm
seconds.
Richard Southern. Big news from the skies this past week. The federal government and Air Canada
I saw a Q400. Who the fuck flies those besides Porter?
to a $4 billion repayable loan. It will also save the airline be forced to refund passengers, give them a cash refund. Robert Kokonis is an air travel expert at Air Travel. Robert, is this enough to keep Air Canada afloat?
Air Canada was not in danger of failing, but Air Canada certainly took a very, very significant body blow from the pandemic, burning anywhere between $13 and $16 million of cash per day, upwards of $500 million a month. So I think this is more than enough for Air Canada to shore up where it's been and make sure that once the recovery from or post-COVID starts to happen in the travel market, Air Canada will be able to move a bit quicker now.
And guess what? You and I, we all, as Canadian taxpayers, now own a stake in Air Canada. As part of this deal, the federal government took an equity stake.
Remember Air America? Remember a year ago they said Air Canada is going to start doing all cargo flights.
I was shocked, but most
Zip, don't talk about that now.
We just don't want to have the Canadian government dictating terms in a hyper-competitive commercial marketplace.
Hyper-competitive.
In 1988, when the Canadian government launched the Air Canada public participation Act to get rid of Air Canada once and for all, the government's books. And here we are, 23 years later, what the government is a share.
Richard Branson, I think it is, would tell you, oh, I know it's Sir, but I've been studying this dude's work since before he got knighted. Would tell you, don't invest in airlines. There's other people tell you that too. I think Warren Buffett, I'm pretty sure would tell you, don't invest in airlines.
Every day this past week after the AEO was announced at the Business Center. I'm Richard Southern.
You've been diagnosed with depression and can't work.
I want the C-130 with floats. I know there's ways to buy the plane. That's easy enough. But getting the floats, you have to pay Lockheed Martin for that. Opens it up to 99.99% of the world because the length of the runway is the issue with those big, huge cargo planes.
You should always remember that there are no bad questions. 416-661-4878 or on your cell phone at pound LTD.
First and fast.
Breaking news when it happens on 680 News.
As one of Canada's largest providers of home comfort solutions, Reliance is also providing ways to help home.
While costing over $4,000, Peloton needs to fix the problem. The CPSC says if the company doesn't agree to a voluntary recall, the agency may have to take Peloton to court, something that could take years to resolve. Jennifer Johnson, Global News, Washington.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Robin Gill. Tonight for Canada is Laurentia Beach in Manitoba. We would love to
It's
see
7 in the morning Monday in Beijing right now.
Photos to viewers at globalnational.com. Thank you for watching. Donna Friesen will be back at the anchor desk tomorrow, and be sure to tune into our special budget coverage. Good night.
Oh dear, what does that mean?
11 degrees. Stouffville, partly cloudy, and 10 degrees in Hamilton, overcast, and 12 degrees. And right now in downtown Toronto, we're sitting at 11 degrees with a partly cloudy sky. It's feeling more like 9, and the same conditions at Pearson Airport. 680 News is CFTR AM Toronto. 680 News time, 7 o'clock.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News.
This is Sunday, April 18th. Good evening. I'm James Mackin.
And I'm Veronica Thor. Here's what's making news this hour.
The Prime Minister announces the federal government is mobilizing healthcare workers and working with other provinces to help Ontario as it deals with record COVID numbers amid this third wave.
The Premier is planning to shut down Queen's Park. This according to the NDP leader, who says her party will not cooperate until Ford implements better public health measures.
He deals directly with the public every day, but a Toronto rideshare driver says he's facing extra hurdles in being tested and does not yet qualify to get a vaccine.
America reaches a significant milestone in the fight against COVID-19. The details coming up.
The Maple Leafs taking the ice right now against the Canucks, who make a return from COVID-19. The Royals shut out the Blue Jays. Sports at 15.
And coming up in business, COVID-19 reminds us that not all work is valued the same, especially the unpaid variety done in the home. That from the author of a new book.
680 News Time, 7:01.
You know what that means. Time for traffic and weather together on the one. Starting with traffic, here's Craig Gear.
This report is brought to you by Queensway Hyundai. It's a pretty good drive across the GTA. We just had a crash come in now. If you're southbound on the 400 around King Road, that's where it is, and it's going to be the right lane. So you have a couple lanes open getting by this collision. No delay as of right now, but that could change. Just long-term construction on the 427. It's closed between Highway 7 and Zenway, so supposed to reopen sometime later on this summer, but no overnight construction or temporary construction coming in right now, and just that one problem on the southbound 400 through King. Experience the Queensway Hyundai Advantage, 0% finance, 0.9% lease, plus don't pay for 90 days. Experience the advantages and book an appointment at queenswayhyundai.ca. Next report at 7:11 with the forecast. Here's Jason Fraser.
Well, across the region, we'll end up seeing partly cloudy skies for tonight, and we could even see a pop of a shower or even thunderstorm, and I do think we'll bottom out tonight just above the freezing mark. Our overnight low tonight, 2 degrees.
Right now in downtown Toronto, partly cloudy and 11 degrees. The same conditions at Pearson Airport. 680 News Time, 7:02.
With over 2,100 people in hospital and 741 patients in the province's ICUs, Ontario is facing a COVID-19 crisis. While Premier Ford refused help from the Red Cross just a few days ago, Prime Minister Trudeau is saying enough is enough.
680's Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney tells us the federal government is sending healthcare workers to Ontario.
Canadians are with you.
That's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's message to the people of Ontario as he announces health professionals across several federal departments are being mobilized to be deployed to the province with a focus on alleviating the stress on the health system in the GTA. Trudeau's also coordinating efforts with Atlantic provinces and other premiers to see what resources they can spare. He's also working with municipalities
to directly deploy rapid tests to hotspots in Ontario
especially for essential workers and workplaces.
Trudeau's also calling on employers to offer sick days to essential workers, and he defends the federal vaccination rollout following criticisms from Premier Doug Ford.
Vaccine shipments surpassed initial delivery schedules by over 50% for the first part of the year.
On top of this, the feds are helping virtual healthcare and self-isolation centers in the province with $130 million in new funding. A statement from Ontario's health minister says they're grateful for the federal support. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
And the NDP claims that Premier Ford plans to shut down the legislature by Wednesday. 680's Michelle Mackey tells us NDP leader Andrea Horwath is vowing not to cooperate until the Ford government puts certain COVID-19 measures in place.
Ontario NDP leader Andrea Horwath says the shutdown is the Premier's way to avoid accountability.
We need to be in the legislature to hold the government to account and to scrutinize what it is that they're doing and to be the voice of everyday people.
The official opposition party leader says NDP MPPs will not cooperate until 4 primary demands have been met.
What we need is paid sick days in Ontario. What we need is the complete cancellation of those extra powers that Ford announced.
Thirdly, shut down all non-essential workplaces. And finally, direct financial support for workers and small businesses. The government House Leader's office, meantime, insists the legislature will be in session this week. But Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca is doubling down on the NDP's claim and says Ford has tied the opposition's hands and is forcing a closure in the same week the Liberals' bill on paid sick leave was to be debated. I'm Michelle Mackey.
Many frontline workers have already rolled up their sleeves to get a COVID-19 vaccine, but a Toronto rideshare worker says he feels shut out, even as he goes for his regular COVID-19 test. Our Caitlin Lee has that story.
Personally, the pandemic has meant a lot of sleepless nights and anxiety-ridden days on the job.
You don't have a plexiglass to get separated. And you're trying to take all the precautions, opening the window.
He's still waiting to be eligible for a vaccine, but in his attempt to stay regularly tested as he drives around the public, he's also been turned away from his local.
See what they just did there. Opening the windows is not a solution. You're supposed to have your ventilation on, windows rolled up, stupid. There's an air filter in your car.
A statement sent to 680.
I want to breathe in what that crackhead standing outside my car is breathing out.
Which allows them to test asymptomatic teachers and long-term care workers, but not rideshare drivers.
There are people that are working, literally are working every day.
So he said in addition to the fear of bringing home the virus, he would not be able to afford to take time off work if he got sick. I'm Caitlin Lee.
Their powers have been stripped back, but police are still able to stop Ontarians if they believe they're on their way to a large gathering.
You can take
No,
your
they're
kids
not.
to
The Hells Angels won this one for you. The Hells Angels won this one for you. What he just said is untrue under the case law set in Ontario.
These changes now in effect after
Road
the
81.
province received backlash yesterday for its tighter restrictions to prevent further spread of the virus. Abby Dishman is a lawyer with the Canadian Civil Liberties Association.
This really went beyond any type of, constitutional balancing or justification that
Email her and say, hey,
and
what about the Hells Angels?
dramatically altered individuals' rights.
Emails back. She'll tell you.
Which we are absolutely not only allowed to do, but encouraged to do for mental health and for exercise during this pandemic.
She says she'll be watching how law officials exercise enforcement when it comes to COVID restrictions. I'm Michelle Morton. Peel Police.
It's already been ruled that's against the charter. You can't stop people just because they're headed to, for example, a Hells Angels gathering. The police took it one step further. They're going to stop everybody that comes down that road. Can't do it. It's not legal under the charter. It's against the charter. It has nothing to do with the legislation. The charter says you can't do it.
They are still working to notify next of kin. Constable Cannon says investigators are on scene trying to piece this all together.
At this point, I know they're trying to figure out the association with the residents. So at this point, we're not sure if he was a resident in there or if he was a guest.
There's also no suspect information at this time as the investigation is in the early stage. Police are asking anyone with information to contact police. I'm Madison Fitzpatrick.
680 News Time, 7:08. This just in to 680 News. Ontario is lowering the minimum age for the AstraZeneca vaccine to 40 from 55. is coming in from the office of Health Minister Christine Elliott, a spokeswoman saying that the shot will be offered at pharmacies and primary care settings. According to that same spokeswoman, the province has made the call based on the current supply of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Stay with 680
you got a whole
News for
bunch
more
of
on this
unfilled
developing
appointments.
story.
People just not getting it.
And the U.S. has reached a significant milestone in its efforts to vaccinate Americans against COVID-19.
The CDC now saying that half of all U.S. adults have received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, but the remaining half may be more of a challenge. Dr. Anthony Fauci on ABC's This Week saying the White House COVID response team is working with prominent community members and celebrities to convince the hesitant with
trusted messages that anyone would feel comfortable with listening to, whether you're a Republican or Democrat.
Telling Americans to keep their appointments amid a rise in cases.
7-day average of over
around in there.
60,000 new infections per day. That's a place you don't want to be.
Dave Packer, ABC News.
And in just 30 seconds, we'll check the price at the pumps.
680 News Time, 7:09.
Your news now on your radio, online, and on your smart speaker.
Play 680 News.
Ontario's COVID-19 vaccine plan is helping to stop the spread and save lives until we're all vaccinated.
You know things have gone too far if your phone just said to you, you're already listening to 680 News.
April and 2 million in May and 12 million over 5 weeks in the month of June are coming because of the contract that we announced today. And so we're doing whatever we can in an extremely competitive global environment with no domestic production at the current time to bring in as many vaccines as possible. In addition, we have to remember that vaccines are a very, very important part of addressing the pandemic.
Pretty good.
As social distancing, staying at home and isolating and wearing masks, reducing travel, all of that is also important in terms of addressing the pandemic. But from a federal government perspective, we will do whatever we can to support the provinces and territories. I know that the pressure that elected officials are under is very intense at the current time, and the easy solution is to blame. That's politics. We can't do that right now, not when we have been charged with this incredible responsibility. And in terms of my role, I will keep on bringing on vaccines into this country and distributing to the Public Health Agency of Canada for distribution to the provinces and territories.
You mentioned the Pfizer vaccine. You didn't mention Moderna. Moderna has become highly unreliable for Canada. These doses are getting moved all over the place. They're being delayed, and that is affecting the vaccine supply. But you know, we can look back and talk about the fact that there wasn't domestic producing capacity, that the government always seems satisfied with their production, even when things are not performing at the levels that they had predicted. But we have to look forward now because that's the only way that we have out of this. Is your government prepared to meet Doug Ford's request to send more vaccines to Ontario? Because I know so far the system has been distributing on a per capita basis, but the Canadian Medical Association, doctors, and now Doug Ford are saying we need to start redirecting vaccines to hotspots. Are you prepared to do that?
The decision that has been made already is, of course, to distribute vaccines on a per capita basis. And I will say that
the GTA tonight, and we could even see a pop-up rain shower or thunderstorm develop. We'll bottom out right around 2 degrees, and then tomorrow we'll see a mix of not only sun and clouds, but a slight chance for a rain shower as well. And it'll be the warmest day over the next 5 days as we'll top out near 16 degrees. And then tomorrow night we'll see increasing clouds and some rain continuing, and +2 for a overnight low. Our overnight low tonight, 2 degrees.
Partly cloudy and 11 degrees in downtown Toronto right now. Over at Pearson International Airport, also partly cloudy and also 11 degrees. A memorial service has been held in central Nova Scotia to honor the 22 people killed by a lone gunman 1 year ago. In a videotaped message, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told the gathering at Truro's First United Church that the tragedy will not be forgotten.
You are not alone. All Canadians stand with you and grieve with you today and always.
Hey, those were the RCMP that did a bunch of that shooting, eh? Like, you never explained that one yet.
Not in any community in Nova Scotia, not anywhere in Canada.
The Prime Minister also says this act of evil will not define the memories of all those who were lost.
No, why would you, moron? Why would you phrase it? He's a drama teacher. He's not an English teacher.
Sports. 680 News Time 7:13.
No, he doesn't have to say it correctly. He has to say it in the way that invokes the most drama and
those restrictions while these case counts are rising, and I know that our government really believes strongly in ensuring that those restrictions are in place.
Is the federal cabinet considering the Emergencies Act at this point with how serious things are getting?
It is a good question. I am a member of the COVID committee, and we will be meeting this weekend, and I'm sure over the next early next week to consider all options.
Minister, thank you so much for your time today. Please stay safe and well.
Thank you so much, Mercedes. You too.
Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole unveiled his party's long-awaited plan to tackle climate change last week. After a year,
that's not really relevant to
What are
anything
you
we're
waiting
doing.
for? Be fast. Be first. For all your real estate needs, choose Trippz.ca, powered by Trippz MLS system. With
Things are going bad quickly. Things are going bad quickly. It's just algae. It's been somehow I got the balance just right of everything in there. That's been in there like 5 years or more. It's not perfectly airtight, but it's real close. So when they say that's an what you said is the federal government considering the Emergencies Act? That's an excellent question. That means yes. Canadian politics, that means yes. That's an excellent question because we knew you were going to ask that because somehow you people know what we're doing. Yep, that's what it means, yes.
Across the province, most of them heading to the GTA. And we're following breaking news from Health Minister Christine's Elliott office, which says that the age for receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine has been...
No, that's not fucking breaking news.
But with the low carbon savings account, it's not a tax because you have it. It is transferred into the savings account related to the charge on hydrocarbons.
So just remember, they give me $300 every year for what did they give me? 150, 300, whatever the fuck it is. Carbon, climate action initiative, whatever. But I just want you to think for a second. How much of a dent with $300? Do you think I'm making it? Do you think I'm buying a solar panel system for the whole building to run my unit with $300? What do you think I'm buying? I'm buying charcoal. I'm buying corned beef from Brazil. I'm buying Chinese seafood products. I don't know.
and you're giving them their money back, but actually in a less conservative way than the government.
We're taking it, but we're giving it back. But we're taking it, but we're giving it
carbon
back.
tax under the.
With the other hand, take it away from you. Poor me, poor you.
Where we are as a team, with all the injuries we had. I mean, we're talking 12, 13 guys in the IL, you know, and the lineups on the lineups, you get to respect it. You know, the guys that are playing now that we're not supposed to play, and that's how it goes.
The Jays fall 7-9 overall with the loss. They're back in action Tuesday night.
This one's not marked with where it's made, but it's
After
St.
nearly
Louis. If I
a
remember
month of
correctly.
action missed due to a COVID-19 outbreak, the Canucks are back in action tonight.
There's gotta be
They're in
marked
Toronto
somewhere.
visiting the Maple Leafs. This game just getting underway now on Sportsnet and Sportsnet 5 Night of the Fan. Fort Austin Matthews and William Nylander are both back in the lineup for Toronto. Other scores from today: the Bruins doubled up the Capitals 6-3. Vegas beat Anaheim 5-2, and the Raptors are again resting key starters tonight as they take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and OG Anunoby all have the night off. This one just underway now. You can watch it on Sportsnet 1. Sports at 15 and 45, past every hour, or anytime at sportsnet.ca/590.
680 News Time, 7:17.
The question isn't, do you want a new bathroom? The question is, how old?
Is going to feel like a tax. But I want to move on and talk to you about the pandemic because we've seen some really drastic numbers. And you're talking about jobs people are worried about surviving. They're worried about surviving economically. They're worried about their health. The variants are striking younger and younger Canadians. Former leader of the Conservative Party, Stephen Harper, came out and said that this pandemic has really increased the chasm between those who are very wealthy and those who are very poor. We're expecting the federal budget tomorrow, the first one in 2 years. A lot of people are saying it's going to be transformational. It's going to address holes in the social safety net. Whether you're a conservative or a liberal, it seems like there's agreement that the pandemic has exposed cracks. How would you get Canadians out of this moving forward?
Well, we need a government that is focused, Mercedes. Mr. Trudeau has been slow throughout the entire pandemic. And this third wave is so severe for Canada, especially my province of Ontario, because of his failure on vaccines. You look at the US, you look at the UK,
his province.
The same risks with the variants. So Mr. Trudeau being so far behind the developed world is going to be more challenges that the provinces have to make decisions because they simply didn't have the vaccines they needed in January and February. So I'm someone that had experience in uniform in the private sector. I get things done.
What
I
did
don't
you
just
just
make
say?
announcements.
So Mr. O'Toole, how would you get that
I'm
done?
sorry, I'm not fully aware of this guy's
what
history.
Is your plan?
It's called the Canada Recovery Plan.
And if he meant military, that doesn't necessarily mean he's good at what he did or anything either. Why aren't you there now, bro?
To get people working, to build back trust in institutions like the Canadian Armed Forces and government. It has a plan for a national mental health and wellness strategy. A secure country plan to have domestic vaccine capacity. And the fifth plan is we have to get the budget back under control over the course of the next 10 years. Mr. Trudeau has spent $500 billion and now wants to reimagine the entire economy, and he's tripling
the budget
carbon
will
tax
balance
and
itself.
Will raise it even further.
That's what Trudeau
Canadians
said.
should be very worried. They're looking at potentially taxes on home sales, raising personal taxes, all to keep up with this crazy, out of control spending. We have to have a plan to help people, but get it under control over the next 10 years.
Right.
That's our recovery plan. And we need a serious, ethical government again.
If Justin Trudeau is doing so badly, and certainly there's
Where
lots
the
of
fuck do you fit into that one, bro?
Performance on the pandemic file. Why is it that you have not been able to capture that vote? Because whether it's within your own caucus where people are unhappy, or when we look at the polling numbers, you're just not getting traction. Do you think that that's about you? Do you think that's about your policies? Do you think that this is a time when people are looking for left-leaning policies? Why is this happening?
We are in the same position in the polls that I was several months ago, Mercedes, and the simple issue is Canadians are focused on the pandemic. They want to see vaccines and arms. They want to see life get back to normal. I do too. I would never have let our country fail like Mr. Trudeau has. He has failed consistently from the beginning of this pandemic.
We would have let it fail far more catastrophically and explosively by now, right? Right.
When Canadians see that they'll have a serious leader.
Okay, here's the one different. You can't go on ideologies or what you believe or what that person thinks or whatever. The fact is, the Liberals handed out $8 billion real fast to the public. The Conservatives, you wouldn't have gotten one fucking penny even to this day. So, and a lot of people say, oh, well, how are we going to pay for all this? And blah, 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 blah. But $2,000 a month went into the hands of people that were starving. So you would have got nothing from the Conservatives.
In the right lane there, MTO1C, and looks like we have some tows as well. So there's only 3 lanes. It's only 3 lanes wide here, so you have to move over to the 2 left lanes, and that's the reason for the slight slowdown in behind it. As you pop over the hill, it's right there, and you have to move on over. Coventry North Jaguars April sales event is on now. Check out the offers virtually.
We got a bogey. There's something in the road at the top of a hill. If you're about to crest the hill, be prepared. He said move over. Did he say left or right?
Rain showers today.
And this sun is at this angle. Yeah, you're driving into it.
Thunderstorm is possible. We'll drop down to 2 degrees. Tomorrow, we'll go all the way up to 16 degrees. It's going to be our warmest day over the next 5 days. We'll see a mix of sunshine as well as some clouds. And a late afternoon rain shower or even evening rain shower is possible. And we'll drop down to 2 degrees for tomorrow night. For Tuesday, a cold front's going to come through. It's going to be cloudy, and we will end up seeing some cooler temperatures. We're only thinking about a high of about 6 degrees.
only
Tuesday night into Wednesday.
thinking? What do you mean we're only thinking? You guys form sentences in funny ways.
Yes, I said the S word. We'll top out only
What?
around 5 degrees on Wednesday. Our overnight low tonight, 2 degrees.
Taking a quick look at downtown Toronto right now, it is 10 degrees and partly cloudy. Over at Pearson International Airport, just a little bit warmer, 11 degrees, also partly cloudy. Remember, 680 News is the only radio station with a weather guarantee. Today's jackpot
You're a
stands
photographer.
at
You'll understand how frustrated I am right now.
And coming up at the bottom of the hour, Prime Minister Trudeau
I want it to
is sending
glow
healthcare
like it's
workers to
radioactive.
Ontario to assist in our COVID-19 crisis. We're also following breaking news from Health Minister Christine Elliott's office, which says that
That's the
starting
old
Tuesday, people above the age
news
of
thing.
40 can receive the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine at pharmacies across the province. 680 News Time 724.
Spring is finally here, and Good Food cooked up a great deal for you. Get 8 free meals in your first 2 Good Food orders. That's 4 free meals per order. It's the perfect time to spruce up your dinner routine with our variety of easy recipes with fresh local ingredients, and get free contactless delivery. It doesn't get easier than this. To get your 8 free meals from Canada's #1 meal kit company, go to makegoodfood.ca and redeem your offer with promo code SPRING8. Limited time offer, new members only.
Redemption. Oh, I'm sorry.
Your host, Jordan H. Rawlings. Why does no one talk about the dangers of meditation? Listen at the Big Story Podcast.ca or wherever you get your podcasts.
Researchers have discovered what could be the first example of functioning opposable thumbs in a creature that scaled the treetops 160 million
I got
years
mice
ago.
here with opposable
Andrea
thumbs, bro.
Montgomery has the details.
They speak like 6 languages.
Biology, IFL Science has written about it. You'll have to use your imagination for this one. The monkey dactyl is a mix of monkey, pterosaur, those are the flying reptiles, and the earliest of primates. At the end of the day, it was a flying, climbing reptile. It would have stood at about 33.5 inches tall.
It's a fucking
And we have no
gargoyle is what it
idea
is.
actually sound like. But maybe it sounded something like this.
Oh, no, that's pure speculation when they start saying what it sounded like. Pure speculation, because all the tissue that would have formed their vocal cords and shit, they don't have fossilized. Pure speculation. I don't want to hear it because you're going to taint my fucking thoughts on the matter, and I don't want that.
This report is coming up in just 60 seconds. 680 News
It
Time.
better be good or I'm turning you motherfuckers off.
As a palliative care doctor, you are treating people, patients who are dying of COVID-19. What is that like?
You know,
They don't choose what they're dying of. I only treat people dying of certain things.
For this pandemic, people who are coming into the hospital and getting sick are younger. They tend to be essential workers. They're often healthy before they have COVID-19, and they're being admitted.
So
to
what's
the
happening is
ICU.
they're getting
They're staying
exposed
longer
to
in the
so
ICU,
many
and
copies,
they're
so many
often dying.
virion,
And what
it eventually
people in
overtakes their
Ontario and
immune
across
system.
Canada really have to realize is that the face of this pandemic has changed.
That's why
We are facing a dire
there's actually 4 steps to Complan Laser. The first one is stay home and stay healthy.
Where people may not get access to the
That
kind
was
of
why he
healthcare
said that.
they're used to, the kind of healthcare we often take for granted.
How did we end up in the situation that we're in? I mean, you find politicians, both federal and provincial, kind of say, oh, we're moving as best we can, we're going with it, no one wants to point a finger, but Canadians are getting really frustrated and angry and asking, why
Did you just
are
say
we
fuss,
finding
fuss,
ourselves in
fuss?
the situation that we are a year into this pandemic? This
A
is
year.
what people were telling us was going to
December,
happen last April.
January,
and instead it's
February,
happening
March,
this April.
April.
It's a very fair question, especially from the lessons that we've learned from
Oh,
Wave
a year
one
and a third rounds down to a year. You're right. Okay, a year and a third rounds down. Okay,
We're in
okay.
this situation because of a lack of government action around public health interventions that would have kept people safe and would have ultimately saved lives. This includes, public health restrictions, lockdowns, and the kind of interventions that really should have happened much earlier. We had the information, the experts and scientists were telling the government much earlier to act, and they didn't. But it's also the fact that we didn't invest in people. We didn't support our essential workers with the kinds of upstream social policies.
From their homes, it's things like this. I think we've really found that teachers for students in elementary and secondary schools really do need to be in class with their students. That this is sort of a stopgap measure. So
Why?
For people whose jobs, because of technology,
No, I'm being that serious. What? They really have to be. Why? What is your reasoning?
People are still going to be going on.
We have to hold classes inside this old bombed out nuclear power plant because we have to. Why? Just give me a reason.
Has disproportionately affected women more than men.
Unpaid work has become so essential, especially with people trying to be working. A lot of people trying to work from home and do their paid work while also doing their domestic work, and most importantly, trying to look after kids at the same time that they're doing all these other things. And
I gotta get like a full length of here. So I gotta get another set of shelves here. I mean, this shit here.
About this sort of the so-called she session, not just the recession, but this she session. But this has always gone on. Family economies have undergirded the sort of money-making, official money-making
gigantic fish tank here.
Europeans first showed up here hundreds of years ago.
Canada, a working history, is available from Dundurn Press in the Business Center. I'm John Ackerman.
Some terrific things start with a T. Like Thornhill Toyota. Get in touch with them today to book an appointment to visit their showroom and see trust, teamwork, and a timeless connection to the community come together.
Do you see that shadow just now? There's a bird that covered the whole sun as a feedback.
There are a lot of doctors who are saying at this point in the pandemic, things are so out of control that vaccines are no longer the answer alone. It can't stop the wave that's happening now and crashing over us. Do you agree with that?
Yes, it's important to go back to first principles and review the fact that vaccines were really never meant to support us through this wave anyway. This was for the future so that we could start to build immunity in people, in community.
Yeah, how young this guy sounds.
To get out of this pandemic. But in this way, what was always going to help us was public health interventions and restrictions, closing non-essential work, supporting workers with PPE and N95s, and supporting the kind of lockdown that would bring case counts lower so we could get to that next likely wave that we probably will now see. So it's important
Surgeon General says these will fucking kill you.
Vaccine rollout is important to talk about, but right now we're dealing with a hospital and ICU crisis where there's a lot of talk about increasing. We don't even have the staff necessarily to actually work those beds. A bed is a bed. You still need nurses and staff to work them. And this is where interprovincial connections and relationships and a national kind of strategy is required to get us through this next period.
This is how I want the doctors dealing with me to sound,
telling me that they were looking to the military potentially to provide critical care nurses. They only have about 70
they said they were going to transport.
Nurses. That's not that many. So are we now looking at a point
where the military is not going to help you this time? The military, the Canadian forces will not help you this time.
That are hard hit into those provinces in order to be able to look after.
They're going to stand there and not answer you, because to answer you will be to tell everybody how little manpower they have right now. It's not good. It's not good.
And for good reason, because we're going to need them. But if we don't have the staff to support those beds, we're going to be in worse trouble. And you're absolutely right. If the military is not able to provide the kind of nursing staff we need, we're going to have to look to other provinces and across the country for the kind of help and support that we need. This is why the Ontario government needs to work with the federal government, and there needs to be an interprovincial strategy to align health resources and human resources for bedside staff to make this work. We're already getting calls and notices about, requests for nurses and physicians who don't normally work in critical care environments to go and work in those environments, that redeployment. And that's really a telltale sign of what we're dealing with. This is a human catastrophe in the making.
Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
Yes,
I know you're very busy caring for your patients, so we appreciate
you. You can think me callous and cold, but I keep asking, what about all these dead bodies?
For today, for the West Block, I'm Mercedes Stevenson. Thanks for listening.
Families, be sure your spring break is fun and safe. Continue to screen for COVID-19 symptoms daily and stay indoors if you feel unwell. Enjoy outdoor activities safely and close to home. Continue physical distancing. Wash your hands and wear a mask. Following public health advice will help stop the spread of COVID-19. Visit ontario.ca/COVID response. Paid for by the Government of Ontario.
I have more than enough on my plate. Now with separating, I have to deal with lawyers,
so that's the 60-ounce line.
Dividing up our lives, our children's lives, and figuring out what my life is going to look like. Can someone help me through this?
And Russell Alexander Family Lawyers, your interests are our top priority.
It looks like slightly more than 64 ounces that I was in.
To deal with forms, phone calls, and technicalities. We are here to help. Go to bookria.ca to learn more.
I'm Kelly Catrera, and here's a look at this week's Your GTA. On May 16th, join the Kids Help Phone Virtual Dance Plus More for Tomorrow event, so young people across Canada can have better access to a brighter tomorrow. Visit kidshelpphone.ca for more info, and sign up now for the Sporting Life Virtual 10K Run for Camp Ooch this May. Register at sportinglife10k.ca. For more events and fun things to do, visit 640toronto.com and click on Your GTA.
Dads, we all got one. Close the fridge door, will ya? You're letting all the cold air out.
Oh,
Just in Canada?
HIDU also says NACI is reviewing new data on the AstraZeneca vaccine and will likely update its recommendation in the near future. Stay with 680 News for more on this developing story.
And despite Premier Ford's rejection of help from the Red Cross, Prime Minister Trudeau is stepping in. The federal government is sending healthcare workers and equipment to the province to help battle the recent record COVID-19 case counts and hospitalizations. 680's Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney has more.
Together, we will get through this.
As the third wave of COVID wreaks havoc in Ontario, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the federal government is stepping up to help.
We are mobilizing federal healthcare workers from across government departments to deploy to the front lines in Ontario, and specifically the GTA, where the situation is most critical.
The Prime Minister is also coordinating with some Atlantic provinces to send additional healthcare staff, and the feds will cover the cost to get them to the hardest hit areas. The government also working directly with cities to deploy more rapid tests to hotspots and essential workplaces.
This will make sure the tests we deliver get used in the places they're needed most.
On top of this, there will be $84 million for self-isolation
That's
centers
not
and
like something
$46
that'll,
million to enhance virtual
when you're running for
healthcare.
class
A statement
president.
from the Office of Ontario's Health Minister says they're grateful for the federal support, and they continue to work to expand capacity in the healthcare system and enhance public health measures. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
In one corner, the NDP, and in the other, the Ford government. NDP leader Andrea Horwath says the Ford government is
It's
planning
a Ford
to shut down the
government with
legislature
COVID-19
later this
transmission.
week. 680's Michelle Mackey joins us with the details.
The government thinks that the right move forward right now is to bring in a police state and then shut down the legislature.
Official opposition leader Andrea Horwath said NDP
Thanks for leaving us out here to figure out what to do on our own, dipshit. And quite frankly, that includes the police too, because what are they supposed to do, given these directions?
Canceled new police powers completely and closed all non-essential workplaces. Until then, the NDP is prepared to run the legislature with the minimum number of staff and MPPs.
And this government thinks that they should just, walk away from listening to and hearing from everyday Ontarians, through the legislative process, through the MPPs. It's horrifying.
In response, the government House Leader's office says the legislature will be in session this week, but would not confirm anything beyond that. But Horwath and Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca insist this would be a complete shutdown to avoid
These aren't for us. How come they're olive drab?
A rideshare driver in Toronto
Barcode.
feels left out in the cold
That's ours.
while
Means it's
working on
ours.
the
Take
front
it.
lines of the pandemic.
We got mustard
some
and mayo.
eligible for a vaccine, and that's been frustrating. 680's Caitlin Lee
Oh, we're
reports.
gonna cover this. How about all the dead cab drivers? And these are all my free business cards, thanks to the fact that I'm a smoker, I guess. Or at least I'm a roller. Roller's right.
You get at the end of the day, you always worry. You have this, you can't sleep. You have a PTSD.
And while he's ready to patiently
Yeah.
wait for a
The problem is, it's not
vaccine,
post-traumatic anymore. It's like current traumatic. It's shell shock.
He was denied an appointment at a local pharmacy because, unlike teachers and long-term care workers, he is not qualified for asymptomatic testing there, and has been told to go to the hospital instead. That's a place.
Oh, that's a good place for.
Anxious going
Yeah, because he could get sick, or he could bring the damn virus in. What the fuck is wrong with everybody?
In August, under the sun, the dating sun.
He does not want to bring the virus home, and he knows he also couldn't afford to take time off work. I'm Caitlin Lee.
I thought I heard signs.
In a Mississauga neighborhood.
Oh, here we go.
Just
Forgot about that. I
before
forgot.
7 this morning, police received a 911 call to a home in the Morningstar Drive and Gorway Drive
Yeah, how
area.
fucked up is
Field
that?
Police Constable Heather Cannon says police and EMS found a body with obvious signs of trauma.
We attended with field paramedic, and we did locate an adult male inside the residence suffering from gunshot wounds. We're saying adult male at this point just because there is still a notification of his family, so we have to do that first.
There is no suspect information at this time, and police are asking to speak with anyone who may have any information. I'm Madison Fitzpatrick. A memorial service has been held in central Nova Scotia to honor the 22 people killed by a lone gunman a year ago. Premier Ian Rankin addressed the gathering at Truro's First United Church. He says he knows that words cannot fill the void left by those who were lost.
Coming together and connecting with each other is often what strengthens us through great loss. As you and our communities continue on the journey of healing, my hope is that you will be strengthened by the continued outpouring support from Nova Scotians and people throughout the world.
Rankin says Nova Scotians and Canadians are remembering those who were lost and those who loved them.
The pandemic's still around. There's a few things you need to know before filing. 680's Todd Kaufman sits down with
Fuck you, pay them. That's what they're going to say.
First thing you need to know is that
DOC government. That G.
Before it ever stood for gangster, the G, like G-man, meant government. They were chasing down gangsters, but they didn't. The G meant, yeah, never mind.
No matter who it is, bound to get the job done. The Canadians got the shooters behind the OGs and YGs, the 70s and 90s. But don't sleep, nigga, we all one. No matter who it is, bound to get the job done. Back on the same shit, running with the same clip. Never gonna change, no, nigga, only change hoes. And the pool, but only if it's fucking up. Play some aim and niggas above the button. Working hard in the paint, no patch of fucking no. 3 packs of flip, that to get our shit up. Every other hot shit. It's a stick up, never a 9 to 5, cause I ain't got no day job. From the slums, little homie, when we play hard. You don't wanna see the 30-30 when it sprays on. 22 to walk around 3/8 for the beef. The 40 to live them down, the max for the UC. Heard niggas saying about they wanna make tracks with us. Before that, didn't even crack to us. Going hard in the booth, it's a tape going hard. And the ground into your face, that us a makeover. 2-5 for a Q. The rest block hustlers, mine say won't sleep till I knock. Stay out and don't push me, cause I ain't in the top game. Forward old school, so I ain't scared if you got it. Y'all got it. Is it me you comparing to? I ain't finished my fair share.
Canadian military technology with the Velcro, the hook and loop fastener, because we can't afford brand name Velcro up here. Explain this one. Explain this, you cocksuckers.
You niggas gon' ride something like a flat tire. Fire at your back,
they put flame retardants, Why? I need it to burn, stupid. Does that look like it's less of a fire hazard? You fucking idiot.
You don't supply shit to a buyer. I'm the king of gang rap, Tommy Sire. That's me. But privately you rate and admire. Your rubber grip tight, no pliers. I gotta take you out, call it quits or retire. The fourth run down, fifth lift them up. Bells don't leave shells, so I'm switching up. See something like a bus driver still picking up. Got your hands in your pocket, nigga, stick them out. On the projects, money's no objects. So we finger fuck max and we contact. Slide in, slide out, drop when we ride out. Down go, I buck rounds at your thumb count. You stand him up till I tell him sit down. Stomach on the ground, hands behind your back and your neck. When I'm digging in your pants, give me that in your grip. All for the rest. He said, check the weed, leave the cash. What? I'ma do him dirty, Mad Max. Do a nigga get back. Bitches get smacked and get smacked face down when I'm breaking her back. Yo, we got metal like a rap, made a name in rap. I ain't setting it for trap. Yo, I'ma need me a bag of that COLT. Carved in my rap, still unstolen. Stereo scratch up on my actions. Stop the madness, I'm real up, get it gone. Magic, I don't sleep like I don't got a man. Don't sell your ain't class. Didn't see job, now run a bottom close. I ain't throwing guards, but I'm clear blood strong till it drips on my car. Till it's highly dangerous and no to me arms cross pages. Sicker than stars, I ain't famous, but I'm a hot star. I'll snap, crack, pop like terror. I'll snap, run, duck, just hide when I let off. Run, man in the mat, man in the act. Man with the strap, bringing man vision black. With the phone noggin, snap. On the G for YG, scroll clap, we clap. Do you come and try me? 70s and 90s, been moving grimy. Third rush, till it's hooked up to the ivy. 4 or 5 on stretcher.
They never played the 45, but the sound of the
end of the stretcher. Better get a coffin. Yo, Critians. So we ain't in a no long talking. Money overflow, back on my bullshit. These punks that groove it, acting like they're too sick, too slow. Cash making me ever switch sides. Or babble to the jakes, almost get my guns fried. My mind's fried. See, I don't give a fuck. Skank it with a YG, guarantee we hit them up. Take a nigga slut, man, you know me. Never look back since my first pack in 03. Pack nigga, plus I get busy with these OGs. Screaming Southside, outside, all the police. Fucked up when I nipped 1.5 a beef. Snakes selling cop chops, now you owe me 10 G's. Till I go to sleep, kill you for the 80K. The marksman, super fun. What the fuck's a murder one? Bad news if you run into the DBS. All I do is give one nod, then he breathes the tech. Then he breathes the tech. All I do is give one nod, then he breathes the tech. We the Critians, got the shooters behind me. I hope he's the white, the 70s and 90s. So don't sleep, no, nigga, we are what? Don't matter who it is, bound to get the job done. We the Critians, got the shooters behind me. I hope he's the white, the 70s and 90s. So don't sleep, nigga, we are what? Don't matter who it is, bound to get the job done.
I need like a cardboard tube or some shit. Well, that'll change in a minute. That's not that bright either. What the hell? Everything, all the white balance of brightness, everything on this thing is just whack. Yes, I mentioned you 2 minutes ago, Chomo. I know you weren't paying attention. I said, yeah, keep it up, or whatever I said about it. Yes, we know you're the #1 viewer. We know. And we know you're too simple-minded to understand you're not the only one watching, but
I'm a native today, I'll be a native tomorrow.
This week, more about Halibu First Nation and the Blueberry Blunder. Where to from here? And we welcome Blue Scap Community. Welcome to Mi'kmaq Matters, a podcast.
Let out a Blitzburg, nigga. That's how we coming.
I need a piece of cardboard and some duct tape. Stat.
Hey, cruising down the street with my AR. Strapped in the whip. We all trying to score. Better get low, cause we flip cars. Ride behind the tent. We seen it from far. Cruising down the street with my AR. Strapped in the whip. We all trying to score. They get low, cause these hit hard. Strap behind the tent. We seen it from far. I ain't gotta slide off the rap and low real quick. I'ma hop out the whip. Cruise down street on freak AR-15, got 50 in the clip. Can't run from this. Ain't no kicking and shoot through bricks. Pour off the glass till donkey shit. Gun flip fat with the rubber grill. No Chris don't leave no clue. Come through like night quick cruise. The dick gets stiff, don't move. Flex, I spit that cruising down the street with my AR. Strapped in the whip. We all trying to score. Better get low, cause we flip cars. Ride behind the tent. We seen it from far. Cruising down the street with my AR. Strapped in the whip. We all trying to score. Better get low, cause these hit hard. Strap behind the tent. We seen it from far. No trap battles when I come through. Them niggas know how bees do. All they heard was some loud shots when the cops came, gave no clues. I put in work with that Smith & Wesson. I put in work with that top two. AK like Bruce Lee, got cake back, no kung fu. A young nigga with a lot of cash, body swag. I fuck this bitch and passed her to the class. He mad, he had the pound, so we came out the sass. No conversation in my Jason mask. Hey, Cruising down the street with Mac and R. Strapped in the whip. What are y'all trying to score?
Some round table shit, dog. What up, God? Peace. Yeah.
Something like Michael Corley in the future in the morning, seeing holler for that work like a rooster. They screaming, I tell them that the shot's open. Win with a pit by the door, we cut a locks broken. Don't get your hand big off, I'm bottom pot smoking. Listen to a killer when he tell you that he's not joking. Them rocks potent, got these fiends stiff. Fish got that mean whip. Run it all out queen like Supreme Grip. For that triple beam dream, you know machines grip. In the stick up, get that gleam grip, the magazines clip. God, 5 schemes, fish with a rice and peas. A couple righteous thieves, cypher, well, I like the trees. Them trifling bees, spinning niggas with their squad step. Try stealing me, I'm burning down the whole wasp nest. This Graham Toe, I came to pay the rent. You know what's hard.
Yeah, we see. We know you're gonna do this all day. We know. I pointed that out 10 minutes ago, bro. I pointed out what you're doing 10 minutes ago. That's enough of that. Jesus Christ, bro. This is how you spend your hours and days.
What up to Cali Geek? Y'all need met up, hope so. My FCF motherfuckers with my TAFTs.
Nous la gazelle, concours ange, le dessiné pour le monde, quoi. C'est qu'on s'arrive, bah, y'a fait.
Them bullets fly by, when bullets fly by. What you gon' do when them bullets fly by? When bullets fly by, when bullets fly by. What you gon' do when them bullets fly by? What you gon' do when them bullets fly by? What you gon' do when them bullets fly by? What you gon' do when them bullets fly by? What you gon' do when the bullets fly by?
For without you, I sure would fail. And you call the dust officers by now, crazy man.
New York niggas is out here. What up, nigga? Niggas smell that. It's time to
When it comes to money, I'm at for these screws. My niggas rob they.
Welcome to Big Mo Matters, a podcast
You notice the 8 seconds plus delay on every fucking thing I'm doing.
I'm Glenn Wheeler.
I know you heard me say it 3-4 times. Yeah, show me pictures of my eyes closed, bro. That's very creative. Keep showing me pictures of my eyes edited.
This week, Big Mo Matters.
Very creative. You're finger painting on an iPad, bro. That's all you're doing.
Environmental assessment of the Valentine Lake Megabine. And After 21 years of waiting for Canada to implement the Marshall decision, Mi'kmaq fishers know.
What we are talking about is the equality of people here.
Hi, I'm Max Kaiser. This is the Kaiser Report. The response.
What the fuck's the deal with all this, bro? This is how much they're gonna pay to us. Think about it, 10 seconds per track.
Yeah. Certain man gotta fix up quick. The general. Are you dumb? Better who, when, where, never. I let my dread hang, put 12K where my teeth at. If you're shorty fiending, then I might just have to fix. I'm the shopper's jug mark booming in the 6. How you get it out the mud? Community housing. North side of the Rex, places you weren't allowed in. Bitches used to laugh at the kid and I wanna see me. Told her put these on so you can see me coming and read you. Forrest Gump into the money, you looking like Bueller. Where were you? If it's not for everybody, I had to maneuver. We were shooting for the stars, that was that way they were shooting. I go Bob the Builder for the fix up if you acting funny. Yeah. Are you dumb? Certain mans get crushed on road and keep it hush. A nigga wrote a statement on me, who can I trust? No, my mom's a night in a women's shelter, it was just us. A man tried to come for the kid, I told him head back. Before they start aiming at your head back. You get that? Backhand the back of your head, they tell you head back. They wanna let they sick in the head, but then we get there. Trying to put a foreign on road, and then we head there.
Real human beings can see this far.
A young man with me that would make you say,
real human beings can see off to the side. It's only people like you that stare people's mouths.
I guess I'm huge. I came from the Rex where they good with the text. SMS got a text, not you. Are you drunk? Don't get close, this don't get close, so we the gang. It's don't get close, you will get smoked, you cannot hang. I'll shoot his neck, I'll shoot his chest, I'll shoot his fangs. It's don't get close, this don't get close, so we the gang. Roll dog, be the hardest stone, y'all butter slot, block party turning up, to the dogs blocking up. All of them be talking up, see him and they nodding back. Matching if I had a map, know what I would do to on the clock. I'll be bringing back the Holocaust. Hit him up.
No, because if I do, he stopped. That's how fucking retarded this guy is for attention.
Now she wanna love me cause I'm back from the middle part. Cocaine white, like I'm walking around with cotton buds. Treated like an acrobat, flipping and I'm stretching down. Niggas talking like they cheat, all they do is rap beat. Talking all that shit, a bit on Smack DVD. Certain mans get crushed on road and keep it hush. Certain mans get crushed on road and keep it hush. Better who, when, where, never. Are you done? Certain man gotta fix up quick. The general to some better who, when, where, never. I let my dread hang, put 12K where my teeth at. If you're shorty fiending, then I might just have to fix. I'm the shopper's jug mark booming in the 6. How you get it out the mud? Community housing. North side of the Rex, places you weren't allowed in. Bitches used to laugh at the kid and I wanna see me. Told her put these on so you can see me coming and see you. Forrest Gump into the money, you looking like Bueller. Where were you? If it's not for everybody, I had to maneuver. We were shooting for the stars, that was that way they were shooting. And I go Bob the Builder for the fix up if you acting funny. Yeah. Certain mans get crushed on road.
to an EV, that they're not going to be
Hyundai.
inconvenient. So that's an educational process that I think is first and foremost. They need to understand that, what does it really cost to run an EV? I don't think there's too many people in this country that can answer that question other than people like
global war with Iran, North Korea, and Russia. Not too much money.
And that you really do save money, and it has great reliability. You don't have to worry as much about changing your oil because there is no oil. There's a lot of advantages that come with that.
Many manufacturers like Hyundai are working on bringing EV purchase prices down.
We currently have a number of EVs available. The most affordable
Yeah,
being
we
the
know
Kona
you're
EV.
there,
It's a
Trump.
full
Up
EV.
and down.
It's
That's
not
your
as
thing. Up
affordable
and down.
as
We
an
know.
entry-level compact vehicle that you could buy.
Your network connection is so slow.
Expand our production capabilities as
Come on,
demand
it's going to go down again in a second. 5, 6, 7, 8, right? 1,
where you can build it, they will come. As we get to that point, we see it get more and more affordable. But right now, most manufacturers are making vehicles that are, again, between the $40,000 and $60,000 range.
He does that for an hour or two, we'll lose audio.
That's a challenge for most Canadians from a payment perspective, from an affordability perspective.
That's Don Romano with Hyundai Canada, and at the Business Center, I'm Tim Demopoulos.
If I had a Corolla, I'd crank up the Apple CarPlay and do a girls' weekend. Maybe we'd stop by at that pottery shop again. What if that cute guy Mark still works?
Keep it hush. That nigga wrote a statement on me. Who can I trust? No, my mom's and I in the women's shelter, it was just us. A man tried to comfort a kid, I told him head back before they start aiming at your head back. You get that? Backhand the back of your head, they tell you head back. They wanna let they sick in the head, but then we get that. I'm trying to put a in our road, and then we head that. Going down like Titanic, it's high, find where it head at. Keep a young mind with me, that will make you say, ooh. Or one to the west, bumping that day east. In my city, little nigga, I'm a don like you. She wanna be my playboy bunny, I guess I'm cute. I came from the Rex where they good with the text. SMS, got a text, now you're waiting for the next. It don't get close, it don't get close, so we the gang. It don't get close, you won't get smoked, you cannot hang. I'll shoot his neck, I'll shoot his chest, I'll shoot his back. It don't get close, it don't get close, so we the cold dog, be the hardest soul, y'all butter sauce, blood party turning up, to the sauce, block it up, all of them we talk a lot, see you